Hey, Mark Rodriguez here. You're watching America's #1 cure for insomnia. If you can't sleep, listening to us will knock you right out. You're watching the Wrestling Diving Cutter Podcast or the Diving Cutter Wrestling Podcast, whatever. I don't care. This is Mark Rodriguez here, and with me are
William White, aka Ninja Panda 1980.
Jack Knives from Jack Knives Reviews.
DJF making a first official Zoom meeting. This is pretty swanky. I'm glad I dressed up and I'm rocking my CM Punk best in the world shirt because I am the best in the world. You guys are gonna find out today. So who's next? Who we got next?
Ha! It is I, Wendy, also known as Jupi Chan or Ninja Jupi. And now I introduce you to the one, the only, the great one from wherever, Johnny Rodriguez.
Yes. All right, guys. So we do apologize for the podcast being very, very late. This is supposed to be our review of All Out, but now it's going to be both All Out and All In. Due to certain events, Jack Knives has had several episodes. He's been on the rampage there. We had to calm him down a couple of times and everything. We had to take him in to get him like de-stressed and everything. But now that he's back in the hospital and a little more, we gave him pills. I'll just say that we give him pills. Now he's a bit more rational after certain events. We'll get there. So anyways, we're going to talk about AEW All Out and compare our reviews our predictions with what actually happened, see who won. And then we're going to go into All In. We'll see what order. Let's just say there's a lot of stuff with CM Punk that we could even have an entire hour of the podcast dedicated to CM Punk. So up to you guys. Do you want to get to the Punk first, or do you want to do, or actually what we should do is we'll review the two 0-hour matches because they kind of led into that. We can go into Punk, and then we'll go on with the rest of the show because after that, nothing really affected the rest of the show. And personally, I missed All In because All Out because I didn't care about it. So whoever watched it can kind of go on from there and get their thoughts and everything. So, and actually, I don't think there's really been that much news in wrestling elsewhere except this. It's all about this because once again, CM Punk has overtaken a pay-per-view where more people are talking about him after the event. So, So for All Out, this is the first time also that the 0-hour actually had matches that I remember because usually it's just these random people and it's like, well, stuff happened. But this time, yeah, we had better memorable
are we starting with All In or are we starting with All Out?
All In because, in what do you call it?
Oh, okay. Okay. So we're doing the All In at Wembley. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Make it sure.
Yeah, it was a big show. And again, sorry that we're late, guys. But anyways, the 0-hour had an interesting match. Aussie Open going up against Barrett and you, baby, which is Adam Cole and MJF. It was for the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships. The most thing I remember was that MJF did indeed do the kangaroo kick. And yeah, it was pretty cool. He took out both Aussie Open with it and everything. And throughout the entire match, everything was cool. There were no, when the wrestler accidentally hits his partner, now the partner's kind of mad. There was none of that. It was clean. They were buddy. No one double-crossed the other. So that was pretty cool. But the interesting thing is that now, both MJF and Adam Cole are the new Ring of Honor World Tag Team champs. So we'll see how that goes. And what were your quick thoughts on that, guys, if you have any, for the 0-hour matches?
I don't know. I found it fairly weird that the Aussie Open were so much pricks that they made Adam Cole and MJF look good. That's some good playing right there. And, my hat's off to him. But all in all, it was a fairly decent match. The kangaroo kick was kind of hilarious. I'm not even going to lie. I hope he keeps that. But the simple fact of, they actually did it straight up. No cheats, no, bumbling around and running into each other, causing a conflict for later on in the night. That was pretty interesting. I actually got to give them credit where credit's due. They actually fought straight up. And I'm kind of happy about that. So, yeah, it was an okay match.
I'm not going to say this one. I completely went against what I thought was going to happen, which was I really thought Aussie Open was going to retain. I think the whole taking two, competitors and putting them together and making them go after the tag title, it's just a wrestling trope as it is, but I really didn't think it was time for Austin Open to drop those belts. I think they needed to build up a longer reign with those titles. I'm a huge fan of these guys. I love Kyle Fletcher. I think this kid has a bright future. And my expectation was I fully expected Roderick Strong to come out and cost them the tag titles and not allow them to win it. So that way Aussie Open didn't have to take the L and create a little bit of friction going into the main event. But like you said, Ninja, to your point, everything was on the up and up. It was a good match. There wasn't anything to like write home about. It was a solid match, great opener. Definitely got the crowd pumped up, with that big win. So it definitely set the tone for what was going to come later in the night. But I didn't agree with Aussie Open losing those belts. That's the one thing that rubbed me the wrong way with this entire show, was just kicking it off with that. And I'm still not over it. Like I said, I'm a big Aussie Open fan, so I'm still kind of seaming about that one.
For me, I was so pissed, legitimately. Not because of the fact that Aussie Open lost, but the fact that they lost in less than 8 minutes. Because I'm like, I've seen these guys. I follow these guys in Japan. Their match length is usually like somewhere between 12 to 15 minutes, and they usually have bangers. They've had matches with the Briscoes. They've had matches with FTR. They've had matches with War Machine, like some of the best tag teams on the planet. And then they lose the entire match. If you rewatch it, they did almost no offense, like at all. And I'm like, the second, it wasn't even the fact that they got the whole betrayal. They didn't use the betrayal thing, because I'm like, it's kind of half and half whether they're going to use it. The fact of the matter is, as soon as they won the titles, I'm like, oh, this is going to suck ass, because of the fact that I knew this is why they had them win the tag titles, because now they have an excuse why MJF never has to defend his belt, because now he's a tag champion. He'll never have to defend his belt. He could retain that for 2 years if he wanted to, because that's now that they're going to focus on Adam Cole. I'm like, oh, so they're not just doubling, they're tripling down on this stupid shit. Okay, that's where they're going with this crap. Okay. But I was honestly like, it would have made a better story if, like, say, MJF, did the kangaroo kick and and then, like, if Cole had got pinned, what I mean? Like, if Cole had got pinned, and then that could have been like, you cost me the title, you don't deserve to be the champ, and then that could have built more for the main event. I'm like, even if MJF retained, it would have been better for, like, a story perspective. Not even a matter of like, oh, it's a betrayal. It's kind of like more of MJF, his ego being like, you made me look bad intentionally at Wembley, kind of thing. And they could have built off of that for the main event. That's just me. That's just my opinion.
You know what? I think that's what we all were kind of sort of hoping would go. I remember we were talking about that with the predictions, that it would be cool. And I think Johnny was the main one who brought it up. Like, some affect that tag team where they lose. And I was just joking around with, like, I think even I was saying MJF, the kangaroo kick, somehow it screws them over. Adam gets pissed off about it, makes their main event, like, he's more energetic and more determined to win that world title, and he's pissed. And then his ex-lover Roderick Strong comes in there complaining and screaming. Anyway, for this match, I have no idea, because I didn't see it. I missed all of 0 Hour because it started at 12 and I was stuck in a meeting, and I didn't get home until like 1:15. So I saw none of it, but I know what happened thanks to Mark filling me in. Thank you, Mark. Mm-hmm. But when he told me that Aussie Open lost and there wasn't a betrayal, I was like, so what kind of main event are we getting here? I mean, where's the the angst, that's what I wanted to see for the main event. But they did their kangaroo kick, and I still haven't seen the kangaroo kick. That bet is real stupid looking, but
no, it's actually kind of a cool. It's kind of actually the way they pull it off. It's actually not too bad. The way it's stupid, but it's not as stupid as you think it's going to be. It's kind of like basically a reverse drop.
That's what makes it look stupid,
Yeah, but it's basically like like how when Bryan Danielson gets on the top rope and he does a front drop kick.
Yeah,
it's kind of like that, but he's not on the top rope. He's just on the floor, and he just does the hop, and he waits for you to turn around, and then he does it to two people.
The thing is, it's funny how MJF is like rolling his eyes at all of Cole's stupidness, but then he's the one coming up with shit like that. So it's like it make it make sense, you know. What are your thoughts?
Irony of that. I like the irony of that. Okay, Johnny, what do you remember?
Okay, so I don't remember a thing because I didn't watch the Zero Hour as well. I was busy. Long story short, I moved into another apartment unit. That's all I'm going to say about that. But it's still, so I'm just going to base my opinions on the results itself without watching the match. It's kind of disappointing that the Aussie Open didn't win this match because I was rooting for them. I actually think they're a good tag team. They work good together. Part of me kind of felt like, okay, they're probably going to make, MJF and Adam Cole win the match, but I don't know. It's kind of disappointing, but I'm not too surprised either. But I think the bigger disappointment factor would be that the match only lasted 8 minutes, according to what you guys have said. And I don't know, Aussie Open having a match that only lasts 8 minutes, that's not really good. So that's all I'm going to say about it.
Now, the weird thing, though, Johnny, is that you actually went for MJF, so you and Panda both have a point. So you both went for the MJF team.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I went more because it's kind of like they were probably going to make them win anyways.
Yeah. So anyway,
Wait.
after the second match, let's kind of get
So Aussie Open?
what now?
Oh, so I was going for Aussie Open?
Yeah, everyone went for Aussie Open because, well, most of us, because, the whole thing, we thought it was too soon for him to drop the titles. You know what I mean? And the thought of double champions and, like what? They're going to do that? Nah, So Johnny and Panda went for MJF and Cole. So they're the only ones that got points right now. The rest of us went for Aussie Open. So the next match is the one that sparks everything. It's Jack Perry, because he's, Jack Perry now. He left the jungle. Going up against Hook for the FTW Championship. And the match started with Jack showing up in the limo. And before he could get out of the limo and, go to the ring, Hook just ran from the ring straight on down there because he's like pissed as hell. They started fighting on top of the limo and everything. And we'll get to the context of that later. But the thing that started off everything was that Jack grabbed Hook. They were like on the, the front of the car. And he said on camera to everyone that doesn't know what's going on, he just said, yeah, you see that down there? That's real glass. Cry me a river. And then he slammed Hook on the car, cracking through the windshield and all that stuff. So eventually they got into the ring, they fought some more, and Hook actually beat Jack Perry and got the FTW Championship back, and that's pretty awesome. But let's just give any quick thoughts of the match real quick, then we'll get into the big aftermath of that.
Okay.
I think honestly with the sorry.
Oh no, you go ahead, Jack.
I will say flat out, I was literally thinking about this, and I'm like, I replayed the match in my head. I'm like, the match itself wasn't actually not that bad. It was pretty solid. Like, it was actually, I was really surprised with how I'm like, oh, okay, it was better than their first match. You know what I mean? Like, it was better than their first match, and it had a lot better moments and spots, and it brought out more aggression in Jack than him being, shit heel and just running away. And he brought a little more offense to Hook, and it made Hook look a lot tougher, which I think they're finally pulling the trigger on Hook, getting him a little bit more aggressive. I just don't think they're quite yet to confident level that they should be with him, but that I thought the match was pretty solid itself, though.
Yeah, it was a fairly decent match. As far as Jerk Perry goes, my thoughts on it pretty much are this. If they would have gave him this type of aggressive attitude, not even made him a heel, but gave him this much of an aggressive attitude during the whole time he was fighting Christian Cage with the whole Luchasaurus ordeal, then yeah, he'd probably be further up the AEW card than he currently is right now. Now, given, yeah, it was a pretty good match. It did put a good bit of a shine on Hook, which it's been way too long for them not to push Hook further than they have. As far as AEW, I mean, the only thing that he had was the Hook housing thing going for him before Jack Perry showed up, and that's pretty freaking sad. I hate to say it, but it is. It was funny, but that's kind of sad. So I'm glad they're finally giving him a push. I'm sorry that it had to come to this, but overall, it was a fairly decent match.
It's when the whole FCW channel, with it being just a prop belt and then not really having a lot of lineage outside of Taz, and of course Hook being his son. I mean, it makes perfect sense. But I'm glad that this was on the Zero Hour and they didn't try to shoehorn this into the pay-per-view. It didn't need to be. I think when you're trying to give everybody a payday, it makes sense. But the match as a whole wasn't bad. No, like you guys have both said, it was a solid match between two young talents, which was fine. It was great. We all know the catalyst and what was to come because of this match. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm glad Hook got the belt back. I'm not quite sure where he goes with it now. I thought they were going to try to do something interesting with the whole Jungle Boy, you know, defending the belt against, you know, previous ECW guys and, you know, talking about destroying the title and things like that. And then something like that got put on the back burner. So I'm not quite sure where this leaves Hook. And coming out of the pay-per-view, we don't know where this leaves Jack either. So, but for, like I said, for a pre-show match, solid, nothing too crazy. It was a good street fight. Gave Hook a chance to shine, give him the spotlight for a little bit, but not really sure where any of these guys go, what either one gains from that match as a whole. So it'll be interesting to see where AEW takes somebody like Hook, who, to your point, Ninja, the best thing he had done was Hookhausen, and without Danhausen, he was kind of floating. He just didn't have much to do. So I'm curious as to where they take him down the road now, because he's so young. He still has so much to learn and so much to offer this company too. So I'm excited to see about that. But that takes up the Jack Perry, doesn't it, Mark?
Oh man, no, they did not. Oh man,
Yeah, it's a whole situation coming out of this, all just because of one single line that Jack felt he had to get for heats that he claims in the match. Which, I'm sorry, but I'm not quite sure why you're seeking heat when you're looking directly into a camera, when the only people that are going to hear it are those watching from home. It does nothing for 80,000 people who are watching in the stadium who can't hear what you just said. It is an absolute
right
of him trying to pass it off as heat. You know, it doesn't make any sense why he would say Cry Me a River. For what? You ultimately did that for your own personal well-being, and probably because you were put up to it because you were stooged off by, my guess would be the Bucks. But there was no payoff on that. It literally was just said for his own benefit.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get into context.
It would be like the equivalent. Just real quick, it would be like the equivalent of like during an MJF match, him looking in the camera and just going "fuck you, Vanessa," and everyone's like, "Who the fuck is Vanessa?" Okay. That's kind of what it was. It's like, oh no, like poor, and then like I'm like someone named Vanessa sitting there like eating her dinner, like the fuck do I do?
Okay, so of course my opinion of this match, I have no opinion because I didn't see it. But it sounds like it may have been okay, but that whole thing with Perry doing that Cry Me a River thing, because you know, of course that got replayed thousands of times. And of course in my mind I was like, so why are you telling us this? Why? And of course we're gonna get to the Punk stuff later, and I have my opinion on that. But when he said that, like you were just saying, when I found out that he said he only did it so he can get heat, I'm saying, well, that makes no sense, because the person that you be getting heat with, I mean, unless you're having a feud with another wrestler or something on the card as part of a storyline, it makes sense. Not for something that only you would know if you know with the backstage stuff that's going on. So I think the whole thing was just stupid. But it sounds like it may have been an interesting match. How about you, Johnny?
Real quick though, I'm surprised that expression has been around for that long. I always thought it was made popular because wasn't it like a Justin Timberlake song called Cry Me a River?
Yes. Yeah, it was.
For them, they started, if you guys got Pluto TV, they started rerunning the good old-fashioned 80s Ninja Turtle cartoons and stuff. And there was actually one episode where Krang sent Charlotte to the wrong place, and Charlotte's like, hey, you sent me to the wrong place or whatever. And Krang's like, oh, cry me out, whatever. And I'm like, the fuck? They've been saying that shit since the 80s?
Well, yeah, the full saying is actually "cry me a river and bitch me a blanket." That's what the full saying is.
Well, I'm pretty sure I can't say that last part in cartoons. But anyways, your thoughts, Johnny?
Okay, so I didn't see none of the matches.
Oh, yeah.
So again, I'm just gonna only comment on the results, what I see on my Wikipedia. So I don't know. I like both wrestlers, Hook and Jack Perry, but obviously with the scandal with Jack Perry, just I'm lately calling him Jungle Brat because he just really acted like a brat at that entire situation. And again, I'm gonna give more in-depth opinions about that situation when it gets to that point. But the fact that Jack Perry stirred a pot behind the scenes, like in the locker room, I'm actually glad that he lost the match. That's all I'm gonna say.
I forgot. Did Panda go or?
I was about to say, yeah, I kind of forgot to mention that too. I'm glad that Hook won too, and he got the belt back. But it would be nice to know where they're going to go with that, because honestly, I'm very interested in Hook. I just wish they would do more with him.
Yeah, I feel like dropping his undefeated streak was one of the same thing with Jade Cargo. It feels like you don't know what a streak is. I'm like, it's kind of like here it's kind of like they had a whole thing. I talked to someone about this. If you look back, just a quick aside, if you look at WWE back in the day, when Asuka was in NXT, she was completely undefeated. She literally beat everybody. She was the longest reigning NXT Women's Champion, never actually lost the title. She gave up the title to go to the main roster, and everyone's like, oh yeah, but they're going to job her the main roster. And then what happens? She starts getting victories, and she's still undefeated. And then she goes in the Royal Rumble, first ever Women's Royal Rumble, wins it, and they're like, fuck, she's going to fight Charlotte. Holy shit, it's finally happening. And then lol, Charlotte. And I'm like, and then ever since then, it's been like, it's like, it feels like the same thing.
Oh my gosh, that thing with Charlotte, that pissed me off so much.
That pissed off everybody. That pissed off everyone. Even in the fans of Stardom were like, what the fuck, man? You had it. You had it. Did Charlotte need the win? No. But Charlotte be Charlotte, just like
Charlotte got that killer head game to Vince McMahon. So
yeah, just like how when Io Shirai was in NXT, she was getting a huge push, and there was this whole feud building with her and Rhea, and it was gonna be this big thing of like her and Rhea, and it was like, yeah, and then Charlotte was like, no, I want to fight her for the title. I want the title, and then she takes the title from Rhea at WrestleMania. And then they decide, well, let's throw Io in it. So, but we're not going to let her beat Charlotte. We'll have her beat Rhea in a triple threat. So Io, because they don't want Charlotte to look bad. I'm like, spoiler alert, the bitch already does, and no one likes her. And she has the gall to go on like ESPN and all these things. She's like, people say like you only got where you are because of your dad, but you know what? He's like, everyone's going to look back in 20 years ago. That's not Charlotte. That's not Ric Flair's daughter. That's Charlotte's dad. I'm like, no one is ever gonna.
You are Ric Flair's daughter. I'm sorry. That's the only reason. That is the only reason. And then this crazy old trying to say that she wants to get more that her father.
That pay-per-view that was building up Charlotte and Ronda Rousey with the whole angle that Becky's insulting Ronda, and Ronda's all like, I'm a real fighter. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna go off script and whoop your ass real, and all that kind of crap they were building up and everything. Only like Charlotte,
it was building up to WrestleMania.
So now it became a fucking triple threat match because, of course, Charlotte has to be there somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
Because first ever women's main event at WrestleMania, and Charlotte
Yeah.
had to be involved. It had to be Charlotte. And then like, it's like, God, man. And then everyone's like, why do so many people hate Charlotte? And then some of the hardcore WWE marks, I go, they just hate her because she's successful. It's like, no, it's because she's a bitch. It's really, I'm like, because like, also what's hilarious to me is she goes out and says, she goes, you know, everyone thinks I only bake up my dad's name. I'm like, oh, could it be that you wear his robes, have his theme song, have a variation of his finisher as your set, and you get handed title opportunities? Who could ever compare you to Ric Flair of all people?
Well, she is trying to get more titles than her father and beat her out, but the only difference I feel, and I'm sorry we're going slightly off topic here, the problem with Charlotte is all of her titles is just with one promotion. It's not like her father who got, because of the territory days, he went all over. He earned those titles. She's just in WWE. It's not the same.
It's not. Anyway, sorry. My whole point I was making about the whole undefeated streak thing was it's like AEW was doing the same thing. They had this really cool thing going with like Jade being undefeated. And then do you think it's going to build to something like a big person winning it? And then it's just Chris Statlander and she beats her in literally less than a minute. Like he's undefeated. What I think would have made more sense is if Hook goes, hey, I've beaten everybody. Now I want to fight Cassidy for the international belt. That would have made more sense to me. Or go after the TNT belt. Or go after anything else instead, job it to Jack Perry only for him to gain it back again? Like, why? What was the point?
So Jack can go on vacation.
Yeah.
I forgot, did Ninja Panda go on that before we start the big thing that happened?
Yeah, I did. But here's my question. Is the FTW title even considered a legitimized title? Like,
No.
Well, it's funny because they keep saying it. That's what's so funny is like they literally say that all the time. Well, it is not an officially recognized belt. I'm like, really? Because you have a title sequence when it comes out and when it's defended, and you have it in the video game. I'm pretty sure it's a legit title. You can say it's not, but it's kind of like the equivalent of saying, well, he doesn't work here, but I mean, yeah, he's got employee of the month, but he doesn't work here. It's like, but he's got employee of the month. He's still got an award saying he's the employee of the month. Yeah, but he doesn't work here. But then why does he have the like, that's kind of like that.
Yeah, that's the thing that always boggles my mind about the FTW belt. I'm like, oh my God, this is damn near the hardcore title all over again. It's just, a bullshit belt just to keep a storyline running, but did not have the characters actually go for the main title. And that's the only thing that really makes my damn head hurt about this whole thing with the whole situation is all this shit went down for a fake ass belt. Like, it's no damn sense to me.
Yep.
It's so funny. The other last thing I will say, which is really funny, is how Taz tries so hard to make it seem like that title has such it's got such a long legacy. It's so respected. I'm like, really? Because as a person who knew a lot of ECW fans, most of us just called it the Taz belt. We didn't even call it the FTW belt. We're like, oh, you mean the Taz belt? Yeah, wasn't Sabu the Taz champion? Oh yeah, I think RVD was the Taz champion. We even called it the Taz title. We didn't even call it the FTW belt.
Right. Like, if it was the real ECW title, okay, that one's got some worth, some legacy, some value behind it. This was just, okay, well, fine. You know what? I'll just take this vape, and from now on, I am now the title holder of the Ninja Panda belt. Anybody want it? Come get me.
All right, I challenge you. Just don't bring out the wall.
I won't use real glass either.
I think we should just go through the pay-per-view itself and then we could go over like all the backstage
We're
stuff.
sorry.
So that way we don't detract
Sorry.
the fans. No, it's okay. No, I'm just saying I think it would be better to just go through the full show itself and then we can backtrack on everything after. Does that sound good to everyone else? Or?
Yeah, because like I said, it's going to be a solid hour of Punk. So
Yeah.
especially when Jack gets started. So anyways, for this one, no one got a point because everyone thought that Jack Perry was still going to win it because, AEW rarely does like real short title reigns, respecting Jack to keep it and kind of keep the feud going. So we all, lost that one. So anyways, the next match we have here, now starting the actual all in. Damn. So yes, the actual.
Just say the Wembley show. Just say the Wembley show.
The Wembley show. Samoa Joe challenging Samoa Joe challenging CM Punk for the Real World Championship. And to be honest, I don't remember much of the match. Just that CM Punk won the title and defended it. And we'll see how long that's gonna last. But but yeah, I blanked on that match. I think that was when I was starting to get ready for snacks, and Wendy came in. I was trying to filling her in and stuff like that. So I wasn't really paying as much attention as I should have, but there you go.
Okay, I didn't really remember too much from this match, except for the fact that Samoa Joe threw a Pele kick, which till this day, it's kind of like watching an 18-wheeler do a backflip. It's insane that he's that big, but he can still go like that and move the way he does. Like, that's probably the only thing I really remember of the match. Other than that, I think this should have been called CM Punk 3D because his finisher is go to sleep, and I pretty much did. I kind of took a nap on that first match. It wasn't really all that. Sorry, couldn't do it.
There was I thought it was an all right match, but I do think it was. It could have been way better, but I think with everything going on at the time, because like I said, here's one thing. There was a couple things that he was doing, which Punk was doing that where in the match where when he was doing the rebounds from the ropes, where he was hanging and dangling. I'm like, oh man, he hasn't done that in years. I remember he used to do that all the time when he was in a tag team. And it was just kind of cool to see those little things. And I love Samoa Joe because he is one of the most, he is legitimately, in my opinion, just as a career, the career that he's had, the skills that he's had, the ability to just mesh into anyone, fight anyone. His style is perfect for anyone. He also has, I forgot who said it. I think it wasn't Meltzer. It was another wrestling journalist where he said he calls it the Bam Bam Bigelow Award for fuck physics. When a guy does shit that they should not be able to do, because Bam Bam Bigelow used to do shit that should not have been possible. Because the guy was over 400 pounds. He was doing full on backflips and rebounds around the ring, and everyone's like, "The hell." So it's kind of he was doing full-on cartwheels. So it's kind of like that. So it's Bam Samoa Joe got the fuck physics award. But yeah, seeing him do the Pele kick, I'm like, yes, I was so happy to see that. And like I said, they didn't, I think, like I said, with everything that happened backstage, they kind of were just hey, let's just end the match. Because him doing the Pepsi plunge, which he hasn't done in literal decades, that was his original finisher, because his two finishers were the Pepsi twist, which is basically a rainmaker, and then the Pepsi plunge, which is a modified pedigree, kind of. It's kind of like a pedigree, because the Pepsi logo on his arm. That's why. But the other thing, like I said, they didn't even mention the fact that he's fought Samoa Joe multiple times. He never was able to beat him until the Owen Hart Cup. And then he finally, for the first time in his career ever, pins Joe clean in the middle of the ring, and they don't even mention that. And I'm like, man, but I understand now in the hindsight of the concept of it. But it was kind of for me, it was if this is it, it was a nice little swan song for him, for me as a fan, getting to see him walk away with the title around his back with the big X on the title. If this is it for Punk, I'm that image of him basically walking away with the strap on his shoulder with the big X across the strap. I'm like, that is peak Punk to me. That is like him saying, fuck everybody, I'm leaving. I'm like, yeah. But honestly, the match was all right. It was a good way to start the show, but it wasn't like
Punk doing in the Impact Zone.
A lot of people are making that joke because I'm like, he does have a history at Impact. He could go back there, but a lot of people are like, he'll go to New Japan. I'm like, no, he won't. As a New Japan guy, he won't because because he's been ducking Kenta for over a decade. He's not gonna go back.
Yeah, no.
I think the match is pretty solid. I mean, it's not going to be 2005 Punk and Joe Ring of Honor circle. We know this. These guys are too old for them to happen. I correlate this to being 90% WWE style match and then 10% indie style. There was a couple of spots that were pretty solid. I love Punk paying homage to Terry Funk with the teeter-totter in the ropes when he was getting hammered by Joe. I loved him getting just destroyed through the announcer's table on the outside. I thought that was a great spot as well. I popped hard for the Pepsi plunge because I never thought I'd ever see that again, honestly. I think it was just a solid match between two guys that know each other very well, but worked a match style that worked best for them and where they're at in their careers now. To your point, Jack, I don't think they hyped up the history between Joe and Punk enough. And given the fact that Tony Khan owns the Ring of Honor library, they missed a huge opportunity here. And I think when you have a story that's just built in place for you like that, you got to strike on it and you got to just all those production videos. You really got to milk it. You got to get those hype packages up. And to me, it just felt like Joe was treading water. Nobody expected Joe to walk out the winner in this match. I think everybody expected Punk to get the win and move on. But like I said, it was a good match. I don't think there was anything that was about it. It came across to me as like a WWE style match. And if that's Punk's last image is him walking out of Wembley with one finger up in the air, looking like a Bloodline member and holding that straight edge, real world championship, the hell of a way to go out on your sword. But, it is what it is. I know Joe's going down a different path now, from what I've been seeing. But all in all, I thought it was a great way to start it off. Punk was definitely the heel. The crowd did not like CM Punk. They were very much behind Joe. Every time Joe did something, he got the cheers. And every time Punk did something, he got the jeers. So those guys just had a really great time out there. You could tell they were enjoying working Wembley together. And as a fan who grew up watching Ring of Honor since its inception, finding out that I was straight edge because of CM Punk and falling in love with Ring of Honor, Samoa Joe, and CM Punk in their series, it was just such a great throwback to the days of independent wrestling when it was like red hot and on fire. Kind of reminds you what AEW used to be, just about a couple of years ago. But like I said, great match, and curious to see where everybody ends up in the next year, where everybody's at, because this could be the start of something big for somebody and then the end of it for somebody else. So, Wendy?
Well, for me, unfortunately, as mentioned, I was stuck in a meeting, and by the time I got home, I was seeing like the end of the match. There's Punk in the ring, and I was like, "Well, maybe it's just starting. Is this match just starting?" No, the match is over. He won. I was like, "Wow, boy, did I miss stuff." So I have no opinions on the match, of course. Like I said, Mark was trying to fill me in on everything that I missed up to that point. But from what it sounds like, from what I heard in general, it sounded like it was probably like a pretty good match. And now knowing like, the backstage stuff and what led up to everything, it's interesting that this is technically Punk's last AEW match, but at least it was in front of a big crowd at Wembley. So you got to give him that, I suppose. That's a good way to go out. And like Tony Khan, you just shot yourself in the foot again because you just lost the belt that you're getting back. So, yeah. But and also with this match, prediction-wise, it was very difficult to predict this one because I could see it going either way with the winner with this one. I could kind of see Samoa Joe losing, but at the same time, I could see him retaining it. It was just really hard for a prediction for this one. I don't remember who I chose, honestly. But yeah, I kind of wish I could have saw the match because I heard it was actually pretty good. And both of them are good workers anyway. I like Samoa Joe. I like CM Punk. So I'm pretty sure I would have enjoyed the match if I'd seen it. How about you, Johnny?
Okay, so unfortunately, I don't really remember too much about this match. In fact, I probably have not remembered too much about the whole pay-per-view, like, because it's been weeks since, that happened, But all I can say is that I think it was still a decent match. I wouldn't say it's a spectacular match, but it was still decent, and it was still a good a redeeming point for CM Punk. I mean, it's been a while since we last seen him on the ring, if I'm not mistaken, and just to see him win again, and considering that the crowd was not really the crowd was not really cheering for Punk. It was like Punk's like, whatever, I'm still gonna win this match, and he won the match. Now, of course, this is a very bittersweet match. Now that we know what happened behind the scenes, because this was like Punk's probably one of the biggest matches he'd had in history. And he did it in a huge, the Wembley Stadium in London, right, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a huge arena, by the way. Spectacular. And it's kind of sad that Punk just has the battle. This goes a little bit beyond the controversy behind the scenes, but Punk just never seemed to have a moment where he could just win the belts and nothing weird happens to him, because every time he wins, something happens to him. Like, he gets injured, he gets hurt. It's like weird shit happens to him all the time. And it's kind of sad that of course, this is like the worst ever, they got let go from the AEW. But it's pretty sad that he won this match and he had this belt, and all that, got taken away from him pretty much, and it was like his moment. It was like in a big arena in London, huge international audience, pay-per-view being televised all over the world, and then that happened. That has to be like, I don't know, guys. It's just it's weird. I'll just say that.
I will say one thing though, that if this is the end of the road for Punk, and assuming that he's not going anywhere else and just hangs it up for good because maybe he doesn't care about Impact. Like Jack says, he's probably not going to go to New Japan. I don't know if he's going to have enough what do you call it? Like, be humble enough to like suck up any issues he might still have with Triple H to go back to WWE or whatever. So if it all ends here, at least we got that very badass dog collar match with MJF. That was an epic match, and that wouldn't have happened if he hasn't come back for this mini thing. So, we at least got that. One thing I want to say is that in this particular match, everyone except for Panda went for CM Punk. So all of us got a point except for him. So that's pretty interesting there. And like Jack says, we'll get to what happened afterwards and all that, because oh god. But anyways,
I was just looking at the card, and I'm like, I was looking at the thing, and it was talking about I totally forgot. Like, sorry, it's about the card. I totally forgot that there was a tournament for the women's title leading up to it. I was like, when did that happen? I'm like, oh yeah, I was watching it. I totally forgot.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was almost a non-tournament because the only match that I felt in that tournament that could have gone either way was Saraya versus Sky Blue, because Saraya's not and Sky Blue could have beat her. But all the other matches were like Britt Baker versus the Bunny. Wow, who's gonna win that one? Hikaru Shida versus Anna Jay. Wow, who's gonna win that one? Like, they were very
right.
Come on now, Anna Jay was gonna win that match in their imagination.
I mean,
Just like the bunny.
maybe a twerking match,
Anyway.
not an actual match.
Any-
But anyways,
anyway,
we've got-
sorry about that.
yeah. We've got the Bullet Club Gold, Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Konosuke Takashita. Also with Austin Gunn, Colton Gunn, and Don Callis being a jerk in the background. Going up against the Golden Elite, which is Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, and Kota Ibushi. 6-man tag team match. I did not remember too much about it. I do remember the only spot I remembered was that Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi were going to try to do the Golden Lover thing, but they got interrupted before they could do it and stuff like that. And I don't remember offhand what, but I know John Callis did some shit in there. I remember he did something. Didn't he like hand someone the belt to clock him with the belt or distract the ref? Or he did some bullshit. But yeah, the Bullet Club Gold retained or won or what? I forgot who was. Oh no, it was just a regular match without a title. But yeah, Bullet Club Gold won the match.
It was a 6-man tag. Yeah.
Yeah, and Don Callis' boys won, which surprises me when you go later into the night. But yeah, what are your thoughts, amigos?
Okay, so for me, this was a good match, but honestly, as far as storytelling wise, I think they pulled Ibushi out a bit too early because they had him on, a couple of the regular shows. They could have just, kept it quiet and been like, okay, well, we're going to do the 6-man tag, but right now it's just me and Hangman Page, and we've got like, a special wrestler coming in. So could you imagine how much of a crowd pop it would have been to have Kenny Omega and then Hangman show up and then have Ibushi show up at Wembley Stadium, knowing the background between him and Kenny? Yeah, I think the audience would have went nuts for that. But honestly, still, it was a fairly good match. A lot of good high-flying moves. Kenny basically like V-triggering everybody in their grandma near the end. But oddly enough, it was just a distraction of Schoolboy that pretty much shut the whole thing down. Like the action got really fast-paced, and then it was just like Schoolboy, and then it's over. It's like, really? What the fuck? Like the ending just kind of let me down, but otherwise it was still a pretty good match.
I think they should have done.
Oh, just real quick. The
sorry.
thing about Tony Khan is that he's like an overexcited kid that doesn't know how to keep surprises. Because it's not the first time that he had like big things and he just says it. He's the kind of guy that gives you a birthday present and he's all like, as you're opening it, and before you even open, he's like, it's a PlayStation. Because he just can't keep it quiet. You know what I mean? So it kind of gives that vibe. We got Kota Ibushi. He just can't wait to throw you into the show where, like you said, it would have been a better idea to keep it quiet and then make a big reveal and get a huge pop at an actual main event. He just can't help himself,
Well, the other problem is what sucks so hard about Khan as far as like his booking, especially if it's a pre-established talent, is that he just assumes that everyone in the audience is just going to automatically know the entire history of Kenny and Kota. And they're going to know everything. If he was actually intelligent enough to book it, what he should have booked this as is the Bullet Club Gold versus the Elite based solely off of the fixed focal point of Jay White, because he has beaten all of them. He has a history of beating all of them. Kota Ibushi was one of his biggest rivals. Like his biggest rival in New Japan was always Kota Ibushi. It was always the the Batman to his Joker. And Kenny never has beaten Jay White. Kenny's never beaten Jay White one-on-one. And Hangman's never beaten Jay White one-on-one. So he literally could be like, I'm here to lead you because I'm the only one who's beaten all you blocks. I'm sorry, I can't do an Australian accent. But anyway, he basically was like, he could build off of that and be like, if I'm good by myself, think of how good we're together. And we got Don Callis. And then Don Callis could be like, I'm going to also be the tumor or whatever the fuck, he's the screwdriver. I'll bring out a wrench and I'll twist your nipples or whatever the fuck Callis says. I don't even pay attention to half of what he says. And like you could have built off of that. And then instead you go, it became a matter of like, Like, I thought when they were sitting by and it was like Kenny, doing that promo and then Jay and the Bullet Club attack, I was like, oh shit, it's finally happening. They're finally building Jay versus Kenny. Everyone's been wanting to see that match. And then psych, Callis, what the fuck? I don't care about Callis, damn it. And then it was like, oh yeah. And also, I will flat out say this. I don't give a shit what you give to Keshta. He will never, ever, ever, ever be in any way, shape, or form a threatening heel because he literally he has the face of the baby mask from Happy Death Day. He is not, he has that baby face that is never going to be scary, ever. You look at that guy like, it's all like, this is the face of your team. No, that's not scary. I'm sorry. It's like I call it the Mike Tyson effect. Mike Tyson is such a threat, such a domineering presence, so intimidating until he talks. And it's the same principle. Takeshita is the same way. He's very intimidating.
You're killing Panda.
Until you see him. It's true. He's like the least threatening faced person I've ever seen. I mean, freaking, what's his name? What the hell is his name? God, what the hell's that guy? Griff Garrison looks more of a threat. Faded. And I'm like, and people even forget who that is. He seems more of a threat. Our John Silver looks more intimidating than Takeshita does. But as far as the match, I mean, it was a good match. It just has the same issue that we've talked about till we're blue in the face. You got to get new cameramen. You got to focus this shit. Like, stop having multi-man tags and not having cameramen who know how to film them. It's so simple. Just have 3 cameramen. One focus on the ring at all time, one on the side, one on the ramp. That's it. Just do that and you'll be set. But they can't do that. Instead, they got to have these cameramen who are acting like they're filming cops and they get more of the floor than they get the match. And you're like, what the hell, bro? But it was an all right match, though. I just wish they should have built more to it. And I'm still happy that the BC Gold are still undefeated, and Jay is still also undefeated in AEW. He's still never gotten a pin. He's still never gotten submitted. So that makes me happy.
It will be, I'll 100% honest with you. As soon as the match done, I tuned out. I didn't watch this live. I watched it the very next afternoon in its entirety, start to finish. And this is a match where I buried my head in the phone because I have no interest in seeing Kenny being part of any 6-man tags. I need Kenny Omega in singles matches. I'm tired of seeing him in tag matches. I don't want to see him in trios matches. I want to see Kenny Omega as the cleaner. I want to see him as the main event talent. That's what I learned who he was when he was starting up with AEW. And I don't have that Japanese history of the last 5-10 years with New Japan where Kenny was so big and so over. I don't have that. All I had was the lore of Kenny Omega, and getting him to come in and be in some of these main events and as a world champion has been great. But I feel like the Elite just bring him down. They don't help him in any way, shape, or form. I was excited to see Kota Ibushi, but to Ninja's point, they had another prime opportunity to really build anticipation for somebody showing up. And instead they blew it on Blood and Gut, which, they didn't really need to do with him. And they could have saved him for Wembley, knowing that they were going to Wembley. That's your bread and butter. And the match as a whole, I would look up from time to time and it's just nothing to be seen. I had no interest in this match. I love Bullet Club Gold. I love the fact that they paired the Guns with Juice and with Jay. I think that's such an amazing pairing because they're still so young and they have such charisma and they pop with Juice. I think they just work all so well together as the Bullet Club. And to your point, Takeshita is just, he's a pure babyface. That's what you build him as since his arrival in the company, and he had the fan support. And the turn to side with Callis is one of those forced turns where it's like, oh, you know what? He needed that for his character. He didn't need this at all. You didn't need to pair him with Callis. Callis could have been paired with anybody else in that company. It didn't need to be him. Takeshita is a really great talent, and he was growing on me very quickly. I was like, this guy's gonna be like TNT champion. He's gonna be international champion. Like, it's a great talent. I kind of lost interest in him because of it now, and it's kind of, you know, defeating, you know, in a way like that. I've already given up on a talent, but I don't want to see him with Callis. It's like I don't want to see Omega with the Bucks. I want to see him with Hangman. I want to see him in these triple, you know, these 6-man tags. I want these guys to be on their own and be given the opportunity to shine. And I don't care that it was a schoolboy, because again, I didn't care about the match. It's a cheap victory. That's what heels do. They take the cheap win. I was just glad that it was over. And if anybody watched any of the recent stuff, I mean, it just continuously just keeps building the same storyline. There's no new directions, and it's unfortunate, but for me, it was just a match on the card. It didn't hold anything. It didn't impact anything moving forward. So it was what it was, and I'm full with Bullet Club Gold still being undefeated. I'm totally cool with that.
I'm not gonna lie here. I don't remember much about this match. I really don't. I had opinions at the time, and I said I was gonna write down my opinions. I remember I did have some kind of criticism with this match. Do you remember anything, Mark, that I may have said in a complaint? You don't remember either, huh? Okay, well, there we go.
You know, you're talking the flippy shit, you know?
Yeah, all the flippy shit. But I think my problem with these kinds of matches is that they're difficult to keep up with because, like how Jack pointed out, the camera work is always so bad with these kinds of things, and I just get so lost and I just forget. I don't care who's with who. Oh no, we're gonna save that for later. We're gonna save that for another match. Oh, I have complaints. Oh. No, but I had trouble keeping up with these kind of matches because of how the cameras work. At least I can say in WWE, whenever they had like tag team matches and stuff like that, they were always a little easier to follow. And I guess I took that for granted because with AEW, I'm always getting lost. I was like, geez, I forgot who was with who. Wait, they're on what team again? No, they're Bullet Club Gold. Okay, they're like, I don't remember who I rooted to win. I think for this match in general, I think it's more like eeny, meeny, miny, mo, that team, let's go. So, I don't know. So, I have no real opinions for this match because I can't remember. There's nothing about the match that stood out for me enough to remember it. I guess I'm more like DJF over there. It was just a match on the card to me, and I didn't have as much interest in this match going into it. Not like the CM Punk match with Samoa Joe, because I just wanted to see them, even though I didn't know the full story. Only thing I know, they were both in Ring of Honor, they were both in WWE. Now they're going up against each other AEW. That's all I knew. And the tag team match in the 0 Hour, the main event for the show, I was curious about, you know, stuff like that. So
it was kind of like the same thing that DJF said about, you know, how you have the back catalog with like Joe and Punk. You could build up the storyline more. It's kind of like that same thing I was saying before, where like, say like Wendy, or like, you know, you, Mark, or, you know, you're not necessarily into or know much of the history, but the thing of it is like Khan could easily get like the back catalog from like New Japan, or get the back catalog from Ring of Honor, or get the back catalogs, get the casuals caught up enough to give a shit. You have the tools. They're there, but you don't want to use them, and you're just going to be like, fuck it. If they didn't read the prequel series, that they're fucked. Like, and then we're
WWE has a limitation or whatever where they can't show any like non-WWE footage, while AEW, like, they can get away with it. They're not afraid to mention, yeah, well, you were back at Ring of Honor, and this was, you know, before Tony Khan owned it and stuff like that. So So like you said, take advantage of that, man. You could show all the indies. You could, probably put courtesy of Stardom in the corner or whatever, but you could put all the different things and build it up. So, not everyone has access to the Jack Knives library of wrestling website, to catch up on.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. That's the whole point I'm trying to make is like, dude, you got the back catalog. You have access to the back catalog. So use the damn back catalog, even if you don't have to show the whole matches, but you could like snippet highlights. I'm like, how many times, like when I know all of us, when we watched those vignettes of WWE back in the day where they would be like, let's splice some old matches between like they were building up like good example. Like when they were building up the final match between Austin and The Rock, the final one at WrestleMania, and they showed their entire history and they sent it to fucking Creed's My Sacrifice, and we all got goosebumps. We're like, yeah, we were there, man. And then like the casual people are like, wow, that looks really cool. That's how you freaking build that shit. But apparently AEW has never heard of a damn music video.
I want to say
all they would have had to do was clip together some footage from Kenny and Ibushi as the Golden Lovers, Takeshita. They could have pulled one for Jay White. They could have pulled one for Juice Robinson, showing his rivalry with Kenny, with Ibushi, and, bring it to a point where it's like, okay, now we know what was up with Kenny and Ibushi. We know that the fact of Juice Robinson is pretty much their freaking kryptonite because he has not been defeated by any of them yet. Oh. And, they could have went, okay, we'll put this to some really cool music and cue Giant Spider and go. That would have worked. But no, like, it's pretty much the wrestling version of IKEA. They give you all the pieces. You have to figure it out for your fucking self. That's pretty much the way they're running it at this point.
I want to say two things. Number one, Tony Khan's probably like, well, we got the backlog to what now? He probably forgot he has it. And number two, I think I read what match they were building up. They were building up something with Saraya and Baker because it was that whole thing where the Jericho guys were attacking they were attacking Cole or something, and then Baker got in there, and then they handcuffed her to the ring, and then didn't Saraya whip her or some shit like that. So that was part of the what do you call it? The package, the pre-package, whatever. But the cool thing is that me, Wendy, and DJF, and Johnny too, we were all there live during at least that part of it. And one of Wendy's friends, or I think your brother, a friend of yours, came in the room during that moment, and we could say dude, we were there. We were there when they're showing those clips of Paige whipping Baker. It's we were there, man. And
honestly, I don't really have much of an opinion because I really don't remember about the match, and I wasn't really too invested in this match either. But I do have to agree with DJF that I think that it'd be great to see wrestlers like Kenny Omega by himself without being with the Elite, just to see how he actually fights by himself, because he was really great in Japan, but here having him in with the Elite, it kind of takes away his shine a little bit. It makes him seem like a secondary character. So for this match, I believe it's those kind of matches where they have the infamous horrible camera work that AEW is unfortunately starting to be known. So hopefully they're gonna they should get more cameramen or do something about it, because it's just ridiculous at this point that they don't know how to record these matches. That's all I'm gonna say.
But what was I gonna say to that? But yeah, that's a good point. They really should build up these things, especially take advantage of the fact. That's another thing AEW can kind of do that could go over WWE with that, but if you're not going to use it, right? So anyways, for that one, Jack was the only one that went for Bullet Club Gold, so he's the only one that got the point for that match, so that's pretty cool. The next match we have here, yep, there you go. Woo! The next match we got is FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood, which I'm surprised Cash was still there. defending the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. And what can I say? It was a good match. I don't remember too much of the details, but I know that knowing those two, they fought, tooth and nail to retain the title and everything. I'm glad that FTR won. I'm just a bit confused because the whole behind the scenes stuff with Cash, I was expecting them to lose to kind of, I guess, explain his absence if he is going to be absent later on or whatever. But they retained, so we'll see what happens. Because I'm not really up to date on like the aftermath of the whole thing that he did. So I don't know how that's affected. I know last time some of you guys were saying that since it takes a while for the court date or whatever, if there is a court date, then they might as well, keep them as champions as long as you possibly can. And then when shit happens, okay, then they'll, I don't know, get storyline jumped in the titles, they lose them or whatever or something. But yeah, FTR retained. And what are your guys' thoughts?
All right, this was a fairly decent match. There was a lot of close calls, I guess the dumb fucks are still paying for their sins because I had a feeling they were going to lose this match anyway. So, I mean, that was kind of a gimme, but I didn't expect it to be as close as it was. It is a good match. I'm still wondering about what's going to go on with Cash, if they're going to just, like you said, just run with the belts right up until there's any sort of trial, if there is a trial. But otherwise, it was a good match. I'm glad that FTR retained the title. So, yeah, I'm cool with it.
Well, it was pretty much exactly what I was expecting. It was, it was fine. I'm like, again, it's like, it felt like two slapdash together, I guess, the build-up, because it's like, for having this apparently long, heated rivalry between two of the greatest tag teams on the planet, you'd think everyone would give a shit, but they don't. It clearly shows they don't, because like I don't think anyone was like, wow, this is gonna be a great match. It's like, no, everyone's just like, okay. Like, okay. It's like, oh, but this is the third in the trilogy. I'm like, oh yeah, they did fight twice. I forgot. Like, that's kind of what it's like, but you look back at like other tag team rivalries, like honestly, the best trio, I mean, really, like literally, like the best tag matches that the FTR or really have ever been even associated with AEW were the FTR versus the Briscoes, because they were building that shit. They built that stuff. It was great matches. You had just these amazing feuds with just them just like going at each other, and then just like straightforward, like, hey man, it's not about egos and but the Bucks, it's always about their egos. Everything's about their egos. And it's like, dude, you guys are in your guys are like, first of all, you're not young anymore. And second of all, no one gives a shit. It's like, I remember back in the day, people used to say, oh, I forgot who was, oh yeah, now. I remember back in the day, in the early days of Ring of Honor, like, because they tried doing a feud with the Young Bucks and the Briscoes, and no one actually gave a shit. Like, the Bucks could never beat the Briscoes because they were just so much bigger, like physically and just quicker than them. And I remember Jay Briscoe made a great comment, and it's so true, in their promo. And he's like, oh, so these boys think that they're the Rockers. They want to be the Rockers. Hey, look at all them tassels. They're the Rockers. Except the only difference between the Rockers and the Young Bucks is y'all got two Genettis. Ooh, he's not wrong.
That is a burn.
And I'm like, Jay had it right. He's absolutely right. He's like, none of y'all got the star power, and none of y'all got the skills to pay the bills, and none of y'all know what you're doing in that damn ring other than flipping and posing. I'm like, Jay had it right, and that was like over a decade ago, and he's still right.
My hand still hurts from that burn. God damn.
But that's the thing, is like, it's still, the thing of it is, and this is the truth of it is, even if people were a fan of the Young Bucks, which I don't think anyone here is, the problem is comparison to FTR and the Young Bucks. FTR, from when they started in AEW, have kept getting better. There were a couple of setbacks, but they've gotten better. Progressively, as characters, as teams, as building up their legacy and you know, showing the world, hey, we are that good. We're going to go to other promotions and fight. We're going to prove it. The Bucks have never evolved as a team. They've stayed the same. They've just, I'm like, you know, reliability is great in a car, not so much in a tag team. Not so much in like building character development. You want some change, because it's literally like, it's almost like they have the egos of Shawn Michaels without the skills of Shawn Michaels. And yet they don't, like, honestly, this is the thing. I've even said this to someone, that the Bucks are just so in their own world that it has destroyed any semblance of credibility. Like, they really do believe and drink their Kool-Aid on a regular basis, to the point where it like prevents anyone from getting over them, except for FTR, because it's kind of more of like, oh, well, they're proving why they're like, FTR has been proving. Yeah, there you go. FTR has been proving to not just Khan, but to other promotions of like, hey, there's a reason we're good. And that was one aspect that they were building up in that promo up to it. And they should have doubled down, but they never mentioned it. Was that literally when they were on that BTE, the Being the Elite show, they caught up. Yeah, God, why do you have that?
And that was before they became Jupi. That was when AEW was still new. Oh yeah, you know what? This was from the 3rd episode of Dynamite. I was there too.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. You were at that show. I forgot. Oh yeah, when they came out with the Bucks. Also, there's 2 other things I wanted to bring up real quick. One was one thing I wanted to bring up was that, like, what FTR were saying was that the whole feud between FTR and Bucks was stemmed from, I mean, hell, they're called FTR because you got to remember they were in charge of creative for a while. They were the ones who called them FTR, which was a throwback to their old joke of fuck the revival, which they did on their BTE just to get over by instigating a feud with the revival, and the revival never mentioned them ever. They didn't bring them up on TV. They didn't bring them up on YouTube. They didn't bring them up in interviews, anything. So literally the Bucks only got famous off of the names of the revival, which is true. And the other thing that they should have followed up on that and doubled down on that. The other thing is that with the Cash Wheeler thing, I think it was a very stupid thing that happened. But from what I read, basically what happened was, this happened back in June, was that he got in a road rage incident where I guess someone cut him off and he pulled out a gun and waved it at the guy. And then that's pretty much it. And it was on camera. And then so like when he went to court for that thing, that was like the court hearing for that thing. So it was like, oh, are we going to proceed with this or da-da-da? I think they just gave him a fine. So I don't think it's going to proceed any further than that. Because I mean, because he doesn't have a history of like violence or anything like that. And I'm like, you say that, but you have a gun in your car, and you're willing to waive that. It's like, I don't know. But my whole point I'm trying to say is like,
stand for fear the revolver.
Yes. Fear the Reaper. Kaboom, boom, boom, boom. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway.
No, Jack. Still gonna say it is Florida.
That's true. That is true. I keep forgetting they live in Florida. But honestly, this match itself, it along almost all, I think honestly every match in this card suffer from the same issue of like there's zero build and there's like no reason for me to care. It's the same problem I have with All Out. It's like, okay, it could be like a 5-star match, but I don't care about it. Sorry. I'm like, but it was an all right match. I think it was fine. I'm happy the FTR won. And oh, the last thing I forgot to mention was I did find it hilarious that literally because of the Bucks' ego, their streamers were all over that freaking barricade the entire show because they had to have the streamers. And so the streamers were stuck on the Titantron the entire show to remind you like, hey guys, the Bucks are around. It's like, we get it. Can't no one have like a little ladder or claw or something to get rid of that shit? So every time we would cut back later in the show, it's all like, da-da-da-da, hey, the Young Bucks. It's like, shut up. Leave me alone. It's like that meme online, the Akira meme. It's like, leave me alone. Akira. But it's the Young Bucks. And anyway, but that's pretty much all I got to say about it.
Now for this match, okay, I'm gonna be, okay. What I do remember about this match, because this was something I was kind of curious about, just so I have an excuse to root for FTR even more, because I really like FTR and I like FTR's work in the ring. I like how FTR work as a team. I like how they both work together as a team. I like the fact that they have to do flippy shit to get over, you know. And it seemed like, even though I haven't watched as much as you guys have, I mean, even from like when I first started watching, I would see FTR every once in a while, and I see how they, like you said, they seem to improve, and I really like how they are in the ring. I like them a lot. I'm sick of the Young Bucks. I really am, because every time I see them, they do the same old stuff over and over and over and over. And I will say, story-wise, and I guess because I don't watch Rampage and stuff. I mean, I don't know, because like I said, you get all 3 shows now, and it's kind of all over the place. I wasn't really invested in the story. I just was curious about the match to see how it would go. I'm like 1,000% happy that FTR won. They could be going up. They could have put the Young Bucks against a paper bag, and I would have rooted for the paper bag, you know, even though there's no way that the paper bag would lose. You know, come on now. You know, the Young Bucks won't job to a paper bag. But anyway, no, but what I'm saying is like the story-wise, it didn't work for me because it really did seem to come out of nowhere with these two. I mean, with these two teams. And then the end of the match, when the Bucks didn't want to shake their hand because, oh, they're so upset that they lost because, you know, they're all hot stuff and they're supposed to win. I mean, like, screw both of y'all. Anyway, but I do like, and then that mess in the back when, you know, the backstage stuff, the show, they showed it later on Dynamite, but, you know, the aftermath of their match, and they were apologizing to FTR, saying like, yeah, man, we just didn't expect to lose, man, and all that bull crap. And then I like how everybody came out was like, yeah, this is where the winners are supposed to be. You guys are losers. And then they set up their little match for All Out, whatever. But anyway, I'm just glad that FTR won. I wish that they would do something more with the Bucks, or just let them just backflip into a lake and just swim away. I don't care. I'm just sick of seeing them. I'm sick of them just being around. And I need, and how they, I mean, I know that they helped with the building. I know how they helped start up with AEW and all that stuff. I just wish they wouldn't throw it in our faces so much. And they pretty much did that after this match. So, yeah. Hey, Johnny, how about you?
See, I don't really remember too much about the match, but like honestly, just the sound of the match of FTR versus the Young Bucks, it doesn't really sound like something like, oh, I can't wait to watch this. Hate for me to watch that match. You know, like it could have just been like a regular match on a regular AEW programming. I don't know, on Rampage or Collision, one of those shows they have. It could have just been a regular match there. The only thing I could say is that I'm glad that at least the Young Bucks lost the match because just like most of us, we're just really tired of seeing them all the time. And we're tired of AEW having this favoritism with the Young Bucks, so nobody really gives a crap about the Young Bucks.
Nobody gives a buck about them.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Young Bucks, like whatever. But I'm glad that the FTR won the match. Still pretty bummered down that in the personal life they had to do that stupid road rage crap. Like, come on now, that's.
Well, it was just Cash. It wasn't both of them though.
Huh?
It was just Cash that did that.
But either way,
It's not tough because you're in a tag team. You're kind of like fucking over your own partner, even though the other guy didn't do nothing. That kind of sucks.
A little bit, because you do want to root for FTR, and they are a good tag team, but just that, what Cash did in his personal life is kind of like, I don't know about